Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the People's Choice Podcast, episode 20. I'm here with the great Ryan Davis. Let me give you a proper introduction because this man has done so much, man. You've won, state champion in 2014, or outdoor discus and indoor shot put, two-time AAC weight hammer throwing champion. You set ECU records, man, and congratulations too on becoming the TEC Male Athlete of the Month. Ryan Davis, man, how you doing, brother?
I appreciate that. I'm doing well. We just got out. I actually just got out of a team meeting, so pretty good. Nice day outside today, for sure.
That's what's up, man. I'm super proud of you, man. Like, for my peeps that don't know, me and Ryan go way back. I've met him at Pond Forest, which I remember I first met you. I was doing weightlifting. I was coming in from Douglas Bird, but also
yeah.
I did football there and then did football at Western Harnett. And I remember my boy Mateius Brown. Shout out to Mateius when you see this.
Yeah,
he would talk about you, and that's when I first knew who you was. And then I got to meet you, and you were just super cool, real humble, laid back, man. So thanks for always being, the way you are and agreeing to do this interview.
I appreciate that. Anytime.
So, bro, let's start off from growing up. A young Ryan. So, what was it like growing up in North Carolina, or Fayetteville, North Carolina?
I was, just a regular kid. Moved around a little bit. My dad was in the military. So I did a lot of moving around, but we did a lot of moving around within Fayetteville. It wasn't like all over everywhere. But So I started off, and I started. My elementary, I was at West Area Elementary. Anybody from Fayetteville, might know where it is, right off the Merck.
Oh, yeah.
So I stayed over there. Then I ended up moving towards the Pond Forest area, and so from middle school on is when I was kind of in that area, and it was definitely like a big change from that area to, because that area goes to like E. Smith, McGirls type stuff, and Pond Forest and E. Smith are definitely big rivals. So it was definitely different from coming from one area to the other. But but no, Pond Forest Middle, is where I got my athletic start. You know what I mean? I think I was just talking about this to some of my teammates the other day. I played my first football game. It's like halfway through the season, my 7th grade year. It was the first injury I've ever sustained. It was the starting kickoff. Had a guy hit me in my knee, and it was just it was all bad from there. Never really got it like checked out like that. Like I went to somebody, they said it was sprained, but this one thing led to another. I get to ECU, find out that like I don't have an ACL in my left knee anymore, and it was just like a whole crazy situation. Yeah, so that's
it's crazy to think that like that started really from 7th grade, and you was going along. You was playing football, 8th grade, playing football in high school, and doing all the track indoor and outdoor. That's crazy. Basically doing with no ACL.
Yeah, and it's funny. So like, I wouldn't have even been in track if it wasn't for me just being bad at baseball. So like, I originally like those seasons are like the same season, and so I was originally trying out for the baseball team in 7th grade. Like I was like new to sports. I didn't do any rec sports or anything like that. So I was trying out for the baseball team. I figured I'm pretty athletic. I might make it, and I had an awful tryout, and like it was just terrible. And I remember like I was standing out in the outfield, and somebody's at the bat, and they hit one up in the air, and I'm like right up under it. And I call my ball. My boy like just disappears. I'm the only one standing there, just getting this ball. And like so, I put my glove up, and I'm just waiting on it. Like I know it's gonna hit my glove. Hits me right in my chin, and I hit the ground, and I was like, you know what, this just isn't for me. So like I was already having a rough tryout, so I was like, I'll just quit this. And then I went to track after that because I didn't want to be cut. So like I was like, track is not gonna cut me. So I'll just go to track. And I started throwing because running just isn't my thing. And so I decided to just do that. And yeah, so that's when I went out there the first day or two, and we had a guy that was coaching us. And like those first couple of days that we actually threw, um, he kind of threw one just to like demonstrate or whatever, and then I threw one right after him and it beat his distance. And so he was like, "Oh, like that's kind of like it was kind of like an awkward moment or whatever." But like that next week, we never saw him again. So like it was just weird. everybody always made the joke saying I ran the coach off.
You probably did. He's like, got this young up and coming dude out of middle school, tossing farther than me. What the hell? So what was high school like now that we just covered middle school for you?
High school was a little unorthodox. So through the middle school years, I didn't really have anybody to coach me. When I got to high school, there was a coach there, but I mean, he openly admitted to me he doesn't really know how to help me that much. So, he was there for like my freshman year and then didn't really, do much else after that. I was more focused on football when I first got there. I wasn't really focused on track that much. I knew I could be good at track, but I didn't, I wasn't trying to go that path. I was, you follow the crowd when you're a football player, as far as like, I want to be on the NFL and everything like that. So,
guilty.
And yeah, exactly. So it's just like one of those things. So I just kind of following on that trend or whatever. I think it wasn't until my sophomore year, later in my sophomore year, that I started seeing like kind of big results. And you mentioned Mateius earlier. Shout out to him again.
Oh yeah,
you mentioned him. So when I first got to high school, I was a glide shot putter. So like the glide technique is very different from the rotational technique. The very first time I ever saw the rotational technique was Mateius, and like I saw it and I was like, I'm a little bit bigger than he is. Like he shouldn't be able to throw it further than me. And I was like, well, he's whooping my ass though, so like I got to do something. Like like so I was like that for me was like, okay, I need to learn this. So like every meet that I would see him at, I would be taking notes, like just taking notes and trying to figure out how he does what he does. And once I started to learn more about it, the YouTube it and everything like this, and started to learn more and more about it, and it started becoming more natural. It became more fun to me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think after that, like, I mean, he probably doesn't even know this, but like, he's the reason I got more interested in track than football. Yeah. So I'm like I said, I'm sure he doesn't know that, but
he will now. Yeah. I send him like every episode.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that was actually going to be my next question. I was going to ask who inspired you to get on this journey of track, and actually it's Mateius. Wow.
Yeah,
he inspired me to stick with football. So he's, Mateius, you did two things.
Yeah, the big role model in life.
Definitely, man.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
What was the most challenging like technique that you had to learn from doing like shot put and then the discus throw and then even hammer? Like what was the most challenging, or did it all just come natural?
Oh no, it definitely didn't come natural. I feel like anything with like technique and as far as throwing goes, it's like if it comes natural, like you're like truly blessed, like you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, don't get me wrong, all of them were pretty difficult to learn initially, and I always talk. It's like an ongoing conversation with my teammates about which one is hardest to start and easier to get better in, and then harder to get better in, and then easier to start. And so I always say that I believe that shot put is harder to like get better in, but it's easier to start. And then discus is harder to start, but it's easier to get better in because it's like smaller adjustments that'll make things go further. But with that being said, by far the hardest one to learn was hammer, for sure. Like without a question, without a doubt in my mind, it's been the hardest one to learn. The amount of time that I've put into hammer versus shot and disc is like it eclipses them easily, both of them by itself. So yeah, it's definitely the hardest one.
And I was doing like research on you, and finding out that even at high school they didn't even have hammer throw. So really, it was just like a whole new world for you stepping into it at ECU.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I really take my hat off to people that like self-taught themselves hammer and were pretty good at it, because
Mm-hmm.
I like, knowing what I know about it now, like couldn't imagine like how difficult of a journey that must have been. So like for that, I'm very thankful for the coach that I have here at ECU.
Awesome. So your senior year in high school, you won the state champion. What was that experience like, man?
Yeah. Been a while now. I think it was. I think it was nice. I really, by that time, in your career, you kind of get to know a lot of the people that are. It's like a lot of times it's like the same couple people, going to states all the time, and especially like when you're like in those top like 5, top 10, whatever people in the
Mm-hmm.
state. You kind of all got you guys kind of all know each other, so it's like you're just competing against friends. So it's like it gets really fun at that point. Um, I think it was my junior year that I won discus, and yeah, it just that was like the only discus was always has always been my favorite event, and
Mm-hmm.
I've only won it once, so I've only won it in like a competition like that once. So it's always been like, I don't know, it's always been like a mental thing, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, I think just the camaraderie at like a meet like states and my senior year of high school. I think that was I like that aspect of it, because we all kind of push each other to be better. Like, and even now, like a lot of the guys that I threw against that senior year of high school and at states, a lot of them throw for different schools now, but we
Mm-hmm.
all still kind of keep in contact a little bit, as far as like we'll kind of hit each other up about like, hey, we should go train. We haven't done it yet, but we always say we should go train with each other.
It's gonna come. It just has to
Yeah,
speak
it'll
in
happen. It'll
existence.
definitely happen. It'll definitely happen.
So when it was time to pick a college, how did you know ECU was the school for you?
And let me tell you, I didn't. Is the thing. I didn't. So I really only had two schools offer me. Um, Even being like the
Mm,
number one in the state,
yeah, that's
all my
surprising.
numbers and everything like that. I used to rep UNC Chapel Hill,
Mm,
like every track meet, because I really wanted to go there. It was like my dream school to go to,
mm,
and like you wouldn't catch me at a meet without my Carolina hat on. And like my coach here always used to talk about it. Like he always used to wear that Carolina hat. Like, and yeah, I was like literally, I was trying to get them to see me pretty much, and
mm,
they never reached out to me. But NC State reached out to me my junior year. We talked. I went on like an unofficial visit with them, and it was nice. I enjoyed the campus. I enjoyed the team and everything like that.
mm,
Um, and then my senior year, he reached back out again. But my senior year is also when ECU had reached out. So prior to them reaching out to me, I had never heard of them. Like my coach kind of he
wow,
hit me
really?
up on yeah, my coach had hit me up on, I think it was Facebook Messenger. I think he messaged me on, and he was like, hey, like I'm the coach at ECU, the first coach at ECU, like. I saw your numbers and everything like that. We'd really like to get you on a visit and everything like that. And I was just like, I didn't even like, when I first saw the message, I was like really sketched out about it, because I was thinking like,
Scams.
yeah, I was like, I don't even know this. I have never even heard of this school. So that's when I really started to look up ECU, and I had no clue about anything related to ECU. But I did have a lot of my friends and stuff that were at Pine Forest were going to ECU. So I was like, oh, like let me, look more into them.
Hmm.
And so when it came down to like picking the school, so like my visit, my senior year, I had a visit. I had two visits back to back. So it was NC State like on a Saturday, and then ECU on a Sunday. So
Hmm.
like I normally like a visit East State like the weekend or whatever, but my dad was really big on like not missing school, so we're gonna get it all in the weekend.
Uh-huh.
And so I go to East State, and mind you, I'd already been there one time,
Hmm.
so like I kind of knew what to expect. We had a thrower at Pine Forest that had went to state, so I would talk to her a lot. Lauren Evans, shout out to her. She so I would talk to her a lot about like how the school is and everything like that. Um, she really wanted me to come, so I was like, okay, like I'll look into it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going to ECU the next day, and I fell in love with the campus. Like the coaches were super cool. Like I thought it was really cool that the head coach kind of went on the tour and everything like that with us.
Oh wow. Hey.
It was so much, yeah. It was like more personal, like felt more like a family environment. And like I'm a big family guy, so like that
Mm-hmm.
just like really they gave them a lot of brownie points with me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so when it came down to it, it was I hate to say it like this because I mean I definitely like I enjoy the school and I like I have nothing against state, but it came down like it came down to two things. It was a money thing and it was a like just the environment and ambiance thing. Because
Mm-hmm.
even when I met the head coach at NC State, I I don't know, I didn't really the vibe was just kind of off to me. Like I didn't seem
Didn't
like
feel that
somewhere where I
connection, right?
exactly. I didn't feel that at all. And like like I said before, like being at ECU, like the head coach went on the visit with us, but I only saw the state coach maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, something like that. Like you
Mm-hmm.
know, so it was just off putting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what it really boiled down to. And so we had a talk with the coaches or whatever, and when I talked with Coach Price is my coach here. I
Mm-hmm.
talked with him, and he kind of gave me like a little tip, like like I was like asking him a question during the visit, and I was like, oh well, like I'm having trouble doing this or whatever, and like I can't figure it out. He gave me like one little tip about like, oh, if your ankle did this, like your heel did this, then like you might be able to get in a better position to do this. Blah 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 blah. We were just kind of talking about it, and like I implemented that like as soon as I got back home. Like mind you, I don't have a coach back home, so like this
Yeah.
information was like mind blowing to me. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't see how that would even work. You know what I mean? Like I don't see how it gets that technical.
Mm-hmm.
But sure enough, I figured it out, and that year, like I PR'd big. Like it was like my first 60 throws and like all this other 60-foot throws and everything like that. So I was just like, wow, like I was like, this guy really knows what he's talking about. So
Oh yeah.
um,
Pay
that was
attention to
another
them
thing that
details.
exactly, and that was another thing that really drew me in because I also like his coaching style. I like the way he kind of works with me almost as if like I'm still doing like the learning it on my own, but like he helps me to learn my own style rather than I feel like there's a lot of coaches out there right now that like kind of teach you the style rather than your style. You know what I mean?
Amen. Amen to
Yeah.
that. That's on every
So
level.
yeah, yeah, that's kind of in everything. Like
Uh-huh.
so I really appreciate that in him, and we work really well together. So I think my relationship with the coach is what really was a big factor in that too.
Mm. So I know you touched on, earlier about your ACL, and when I was doing research on you, like the ECU page, they brought it up. It was in your left knee. When you found
Right.
out that you didn't have any, like your ACL was gone, did you ever think like, man, this may be over, or did you think like, oh man, I'm gonna have to just recover and have like a crazy killer comeback?
Well, no, I always, till up until I got to ECU, I had no clue about it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it just healed itself up, and the Lord works in mysterious ways, type of thing.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I was just like, I didn't think anything of it. I actually have like, there's like a muscle on the back of my knee that like
Oh,
is
wow.
like grown to like, compensate, I guess, for that, not having that. And it's like really large. So it's like the size of like a golf ball,
Oh
like on the
wow.
back of my knee. And so I mean, I think it just fixed itself. And when I was talking with the doctors, they were saying, well, there's like a law of thirds type of thing. Like a third don't need it, a third like absolutely need it, and then there's a third that like you can go without it until a certain point. Eventually it'll start to give you problems.
Mm,
And you know, he said obviously you won't know which side you're in as far as not needing it or needing it later on in life
mm,
until later on in life. So as I get older, I'm starting to realize I think I'm in that that I'm gonna need it later on. So, you know, getting a
That's
little old, so it's definitely starting to wear in.
I was gonna ask, did you have to do any like recovery process or physical therapy or anything like that, or they just said
Um,
just let it be how it is?
well, the way I explained it to them, I was like, well, I mean, because they were gonna like sit me, or they were gonna like medically redshirt me. He was saying like it was an option to like just medically redshirt me until I get it fixed or whatever. But I
Mm-hmm.
was saying, well, I mean, I've been training on it, like playing football on it, and weightlifting and all this other stuff up until this point. So I mean, I think if it was gonna really give out on me, it would have probably given out already. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't. I was a pretty strong guy in high school, so I mean, like to
So,
be
oh
squatting
yeah,
and like
oh yeah.
lifting as much as I was,
I
yeah,
remember
I
them
think
days.
yeah, for sure. But I think I think it just worked itself out because they were really kind of adamant about doing that and doing that process and like the whole physical therapy thing through like after the surgery and everything like that. But I was like, I don't really think I need it. And he was saying, if you don't feel that you need it, then we won't go through with it. We'll just clear you and you'll be good to go. And yeah, I just I don't think I needed it. And I would wear when I first sprained it, probably all the way up until my sophomore or junior year of high school. I wore a knee brace every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I would wear these knee braces so long that they started to wear out, and then like I would still be wearing them when they were worn out until I got a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, I've been wearing them worn out, and they're not really doing anything for when they're worn out. So like maybe I don't need it anymore, and let's just stop wearing them. So that's where I guess it kind of just it was a mental thing at a point. You know what I mean?
Hey man, that's a true blessing that you're able to really not miss a beat and just continue to kill it like you're doing, man. That is amazing.
Yeah, a lot of prayer.
Definitely.
Yeah,
So you had a really strong 27-18 season, but then I noticed on the website it said that you redshirted your 18 and 19 season. How come?
right. So actually I didn't know I wasn't planning on doing that when I first got here. My junior year was a really good year. Is the 2017-2018 season,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a really good year for me. And I was like really close to breaking some records and everything like that. So my coaches kind of just pulled me to the side one day and were like, "Hey, like we were thinking about redshirting you, just kind of give you an extra year to train and get better and do what you got to do." So I was like, "Okay, yeah." They were asking me what I think about it, like if it was something I was interested in. And I was like, we had never really talked about it before. It was just all of a sudden one day, and I was like, well, sure, it's something I'd be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I do have aspirations of going further in track, so I figured, that'd probably be one of the best ways to go about it. Staying here, getting some good training in, and everything like that. So yeah, it was really like kind of a like out of left field for me. But I, after hearing the opportunity, I was like, well, yeah, like that seems like something I really need. Um, a lot of me and my roommate, he was one of my teammates at the time. We always would talk about. He was also a thrower. We would always talk about like if we had an extra year, or if we had this, or if we had that, and like, or
Mm-hmm.
just like a little more time or whatever, we could be really, really great. And I think I was just blessed to actually get that extra time. So
Amen.
yeah,
Amen on that, man.
yeah.
So, so because of COVID-19, the 2020 season had to be canceled. COVID's been crazy for everyone. How was you
Right.
able to deal with COVID? Besides, of course, your season had to get postponed, basically.
So when the whole COVID thing happened, as far as the NCAA goes, I was at the NCAA championships for indoor that year. We were in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we flew in, and we were there for like a day, probably. Like, like we flew in that day, one day, and then we like stayed the night, and then we went to the practice day the next day. And that next day they canceled the meet after the practice day. And like I said, everybody's going home, whatever. It was like really a devastating blow because I had been going through a really bad funk right before this meet, and I really was unsure how it was gonna go. Like I felt like I was in a mind state of like, oh, I'll probably like at the meet I'll probably choke and like it just won't, I'll do really bad. But like personally, I felt like I could have done, like top three, performance wise, because I was feeling, I know how I was feeling when I was feeling good during the season. So it was like, oh, I can really do something good if I just hang in there and like, stay consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through this funk, and when I got there for the practice day, they had some time in and practice and everything, and it was the absolute best practice of my life. Like everything was firing on all cylinders. I was like, probably every throw I took was probably a PR, and it was just like, wow, like this is going to be my meet. And then next thing you know, they're like, well, they're over the intercom. We've canceled this meet, so everybody, do what you got to do and go head back. And yeah, so it was really upsetting that at that point. But you take, life is life, so you take the blows and you roll with it. And so me and my coach kind of took a little time off, and when we got back to ECU, we decided we'd keep training a little bit, and we would train as much as we were allowed to, because they started to make regular rules and regulations on coach athlete contact and coach athlete, like being out at the facilities together and stuff like that, just trying to limit exposure to each other. And so one of the days that we were there, we decided to make like an improvised hammer, and you can kind of throw a disc anywhere, but um, we made an improvised hammer where I could throw it anywhere, instead of like that way I wouldn't put holes in anywhere I went to throw. And so I would use that, and it was a really good learning experience for me. I wasn't expecting it to be the way it was, but it definitely taught me a lot of things, like working with that hammer. So like even now I still incorporate it into my training. And so I found we couldn't, they closed the facilities down, so I found I was throwing in the back of a church, like it was like a big church facility. And I just found some grout, some asphalt that was in the back, and I just throwing onto the grass that they had. And no, it was really good training. It was on my own, I just would send my coach videos and stuff like that. He'd critique it, and then we'd talk like that. There was some point in time where they were saying that we couldn't like even communicate with them. That was weird, but so we just kind of kept in contact as much as we could, and just take it in stride. Pretty much, we just really tried to take it in stride and just keep it moving forward. Because we both know that like it won't last forever, but we just got to make the best of it.
Amen. And your coach always speaks really highly of you, and in like a lot of the interviews I've read online and stuff. That's Coach David Price.
Yeah.
What was it like really being under him? I know you touched on a little bit more, like recruiting you, kind of like in high school. But what's it like being with him, and what's the most important thing he's taught you so far?
Man, he's like the definition of a great coach. I mean, in my opinion, um, he's he's very. I feel like other coaches might call him unorthodox. He doesn't kind of fly that straight line that everybody else flies. He allows you a lot more like flexibility and like how you like gather information, and how he presents it to you. So he's a very like he's very creative and imaginative. So like that was a big thing with me in high school when I was like learning on my own. I would always be like, oh, like this, you can do this as a drill, or do this as a drill, and like it will help this or help that. And like I'd always be like kind of making up stuff and everything like that. And he's the same way, but with more resources. So like I mean, I can't tell you how many like over the time I've been here, I can't tell you how many like odd contraptions I've been in, just trying to learn like different positions and stuff like that. And they all help, they all help. Like, some obviously, if you make 100 ideas, all of them won't be the best idea ever. But, we had, a couple setbacks on stuff, and like, but for the most part, he's just like a really creative guy. And he helps out a lot as far as building your style and everything like that. As far as our relationship goes, I mean, he's like almost like a second dad, like he's just a really cool guy to be around, yeah, he's a good dude. He's a really good dude.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. Those are the type of coaches that are gonna be in your life beyond, you know, like school and
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure, for
It's like,
sure. He's definitely getting an invite to the wedding and all that
oh yeah.
stuff.
It's like that's like when my old coach Stone, when I played for him at Bird, and he was my first guest, like, I mean, on the People's Choice podcast, and he
Right,
believed in me back when I was just a big chubby kid trying to learn new, you know, something new, to now even experience in this podcast world. So like when we're still
right.
close. So I think exactly that's how Coach Price is, definitely, like you say, he's going to be in the wedding and beyond, man.
Yeah, for
And shout out to
sure,
Coach
for
Price
sure.
for that, for being that role
Yeah,
model for you.
big shout out to him. Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
So I was looking up for your 2017-18 season at the Bill Carson invitation, and it said you broke the meet record with both hammer toss and disc throw. It was at 67.42 meters and then at 56.95 meters. What was
Yeah,
that
that was
like when you heard you broke the record?
so that was this year. So
Oh, this year. I'm sorry.
uh yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. I was I was gunning for these records for so long. I kept talking to one of my teammates all week. I was like really like all season. I was like really bent on being able to like take those records because I think the discus record was held by someone at ECU, but the hammer record was no. I think both of those records were held by somebody other than like somebody from ECU.
Mhm.
And I was so like I was the only like I guess you could say like I was the only hammer thrower that could throw more than 60 meters at this meet, and I was the only disc thrower that had thrown more than what the record was. So
Mhm.
like I was like I know I have a good chance of breaking both of these records. For whatever reason at ECU, like the way the track is and like the way the wind hits
Mhm.
the track and everything like that, it makes it really hard to throw discus. It makes it really hard to throw hammer sometimes because like the wind kind of blows it down. So it's like it's harder to throw at ECU. And the weekend of our home meet is always the weather's always funny. Like every time, it's never failed. So, um, so you know, this year was no different. It was a little cold. It was pretty early in the morning, which is another hard thing to do. Throwing early in the morning, it's always really tough. It's like a real shock to your body.
Mhm.
And so I was like going into the meet thinking these are the marks I'm trying to beat. I'm not, you know, I'm not worried about winning it. I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried about that. I want to beat these records. Like that's what I wanted. And there was my mentality going into it was like defending the house. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I'm in a home football game or something like that. And that's where my mentality was lying on that. Cause, I think the previous record previous facility record and hammer was, I think 65 something like that
Mhm.
meters, and then the previous disc record might have been like 52 or 54 meters, something somewhere in that range.
Mhm.
But I was just like, yeah, I know I can get those. Like I know I can. So it was just a matter of like making sure it lined up on the right day, you know. And we mentioned my redshirt year earlier.
Mhm.
Throughout my redshirt year, I competed a couple times, and a lot of things I learned from that was well, the biggest thing I learned from that redshirt year was that I learned how to compete, and so I've competed in like hundreds of meets prior
Mhm.
to this redshirt year, but that year I really like it was my first year not being with a team when I would compete, so it was like
Mhm.
you just focus on you and you do what you need to do to be good, to be, you know, to do what you came to do, you know, pretty much.
Mhm.
And so I think carrying that mindset into like these meets, it made it a lot easier to be able to like focus in and be like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I got to get it done. So I'm not. Uh, I used to always really focus on like, oh, I really want to throw this distance. I really want to throw this distance. But the way I started to learn was I really want to do this with my technique, and it'll make me throw that far. Instead
Mhm.
of thinking of it in terms of distance, think about it in terms of what I'm doing. You know, and
Mhm.
that's really how that kind of came about. You know, it's more about a focus thing on what I what I've been practicing rather than a focus on like I know I can hit this distance, so I'm just gonna hit this distance, you know.
Mm-hmm. And that's amazing, man. I'm proud of you that you was able to really have that mindset of like, I believe it. Like I know I could do this. I can know, and then go out there and do it. Like that is amazing, man.
Right,
Congrats on
right,
that
yeah.
again.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
You're an extremely hard worker and very talented athlete. But what do you do in your free time? Or like, do you have any hobbies that you do, hidden talents?
Um, I mean, so I'm, I'm currently on a journey to learn 10 instruments by the time I'm 30.
10.
Um,
Ooh.
yeah, so when I decided I was going to embark on this journey, I already knew how to play, like I knew how to play efficiently two instruments, just the piano and the drums. And I post piano videos all the time and stuff like that. I like rarely post a video of me playing the drums. Um, since embarking on this journey, I've started to play. I've learned a little bit of the guitar. I've learned a lot of the bass guitar. I took a class where I learned to play the ukulele.
Okay.
Um, my older brother had a saxophone, and I was just like, oh, let me try that out. And I started to pick that up, and I think like 3 days in, I posted a video, and it was like really good. I was like, wow, like so I had to post about it. It's like, oh, like this is only 3 days in, kind of brag about it a little bit. So, but yeah, music is a lot of my free time. Music and schoolwork. What I prefer to do with my time is obviously music over schoolwork, but um, yeah, that's a lot of my time. I used to spend a lot of time in the music building on campus. A lot of time in the music building. I mean, I'd be there like at the end of my day. I'd get done at like 8 or 9 or whatever, and I go to the music building and like sit there and like I'd be there until like almost 1 in the morning, like just playing or doing
Wow.
whatever. And yeah, this I love music. That's my thing.
I know when I get married, who I'm calling to play at my wedding.
Call me up, man. Call me up.
So, what's your diet and like workout routine for like up and coming, people that want to be like Ryan Davis?
Man, I have a super crazy metabolism. So like for the longest time my diet was like terrible. But like I didn't think of it as terrible because I mean I maintained my same figure. I didn't from the time I was a sophomore in high school up until my junior year of college, I didn't gain a pound. I was
Wow.
210 pounds the whole time. And then I think my junior years where I started I was I think around like 215 ish, and that was like a big deal for me because like I hadn't gained weight in so long. So
Mhm.
I was like, oh, like I was like really hype about it. Um, I started to get more into like home cooked meals. I moved off campus, so you gotta do a little bit different, So
Oh yeah.
can't be eating out every day and stuff like that. So I started to cook more. I had to learn how to cook, so I had to you know I started off with like the basic burgers, and figured that out, and then I went to started making a lot of chicken for myself and stuff like that. Went like chicken and rice and like things like that. Um, Now I kind of like I don't cook regularly anymore, but like
Mhm.
I do cook, and I think just those like really just cook meals. I don't have any like specific diet plan or anything like that. I just cook foods, instead of like the eating out and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, as far as like weight room goes, it's I don't even know how to explain the workouts. I'm not really like well versed in like all that type of stuff, but
Mhm.
I just know how I feel when I'm doing it. But currently right now it's like it's really killing me, but but workout plans in the past, like it's always just been like a lot centered around like building power and building like that explosiveness rather than like just building strength, because like Coach Price will always talk about how throwers don't lift to be strong as they can be, they lift to build bigger muscles. So in throwing, you're not necessarily trying to be as strong as you can to throw it as far as you can. You're trying to have a big enough muscle and stretch that muscle and
Mhm.
then snap it back. That is a way faster and way stronger reaction than just you trying to push it, as hard as you can. And so
True that.
that's where we that's where a lot of our weight training is like kind of based in, just like, just building like mass pretty much.
That's awesome, man. And I'm glad you touched on that, because to the outside eye, they will probably think like, man, I gotta lift, I gotta get super strong so I could toss this stuff. But you're like, basically work on that explosiveness. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could be like, I mean, not have like great numbers in the weight room, but as long as you have that like explosiveness, you could do pretty well in throwing. Like there's
Awesome.
not, I know a lot of people that like aren't super, super strong, but like they could throw well because they just have that explosiveness about them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not to say that they can't become stronger, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just to say that like the explosiveness helps more than that just brute strength does. I mean, we see a lot of times, we used to have some like football players and stuff like that come out and like throw shot put, and not like trying out for the team or anything. They were just kind of like, we had one guy that like stayed on and like he went to a couple meets and everything. But they would be like massive guys, like I mean like 6'7", like 300 something pounds, like big dudes. And they would throw the shot, and like, I mean, here I am. At the time I was like 6'2", like 210 roughly, like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And could kill it way better than they could. So
Mm-hmm.
it's more about like, it's more about that, like how you move and like how explosive you can be rather than just brute strength.
Awesome. Well, you was on record saying that you want to compete in the Olympics. What do you think it's going to take to
Yeah.
get to the Olympics and to win it all?
Oh, to win it all, man. That would be tough. I think right now, so like, you know, my my long term goal is to compete in the Olympics and be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
At my current stage, there's no way I could compete in the Olympics and be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I mean, I could go to like the trials and be semi competitive, but it's a longer process than that. As far as like, so like, let me just give you my next couple months plan right now. So
Sure.
like currently, we have our conference meet coming up, which is like, it'd be like equivalent of a state meet for high school. So it's like a pretty big deal. Um, so we have our conference meet coming up. After that, we'll have regionals. After regionals, we'll have nationals. After nationals, we'll have the USA Olympic trials, whatever, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is like pretty much my goal right now. I want to be able to qualify for the trials, and I want to be able to be as competitive as I can be at the trials. There's a lot of guys. I mean, my PR right now is about is like 69 meters. There's a lot of guys that are like over 75 meters. So I mean, I know I could be competitive. I know, like for me, my confidence in my ability, I think I don't even want to say a max number, but like, I think right now, like my experience level will probably get me to about 72 to 73, something like that meters. That's, if God wills it, you know what I mean? So it's
Mm-hmm.
not, I'm just, doing what I can do, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
um, if I could get that, that would be awesome. Like that's kind of what my goal is right now, just to be able to get to that level and then kind of see how it feels, and then hopefully the next time it comes around, I'll be ready. Like, it's funny. So like, I reach out to some of these like professional hammer throwers and stuff like that, and like I'll ask them like, like, what are you like? How do you do this? Or like, how do you think about this? Or like, what do you think about this? Or stuff like that. And they some of them will tell me like it's not something that they think about. It's something that they've just done it over and over and over and over, and now it's like second nature of how they feel with the hammer, or how they feel with this, or how they feel with that. And there's just something that you can't really explain to somebody. They just have to experience it for themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the advice that they give me. And I'm just like, well, thanks, but I wanted the secret I wanted
Uh-huh.
the secret to the game, but that is the only secret. It's just time. um Hammer throw is a very rhythmic event, so you can't just you're not just gonna power throw a hammer, and like it go crazy far. I mean, there's people that can throw a hammer far, based off their strength and like, not so great technique. But as far as like becoming like that level, like Olympic trials and all that type of stuff level, you don't really see it often where like somebody has like this awful, like god awful technique and they can't, you know what I mean? And like they're like competing with these like people, you know what I mean? It just doesn't happen. And so it's really just about right now for me, the goal is to get this technique down as good as possible in the next couple months. Go to the trials and see how I do, like, or that's the goal, to get to the trials and see how I can do, and like kind of get my feet wet a little bit. I've never been to the NCAA championship. That's another thing that I'm kind of like, I'm not overlooking it, but I'm, being, I guess, like you could say, slightly overconfident about like, oh, like I'll definitely make it, but it's not, there's no guarantees, but I definitely, it's like the roadmap of how I want it to play out pretty much.
Amen. And I believe in you 100%, man. I know you're going to kill it, man.
I
Definitely.
appreciate that.
And I can't wait to see your name, on the bottom of that screen when they're saying, Olympics, because I know you can make it, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I got high faith in you. So one thing I love to do here at the People's Choice podcast, and you're a very positive person, just like me, very humble and stuff, and I always like to keep it like that. So what is one of your favorite like quotes that or sayings that's been instilled in your head or that you lean on during the good times or bad times?
Oh man. The first one that came to mind when you asked that is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's the one right there for me. I'm like a firm believer in hard work, and like, I feel like people tell me a lot of times like, oh, like you're so gifted, like you do this, you do that, but I feel like, I appreciate the gestures of that, but nobody sees the work that goes in behind closed doors, you know what I mean? So like there's a lot of like time spent like watching films of other people, watching films of myself, watching like all these types of films and stuff like that, like these analytical videos, and then like going out, like I think I was just this past semester, during the fall, I was up in New York training, and I was doing, it was like, it'd be like freezing cold out, like, I'm sitting here trying to get it in. The summer before that, it would be like 90 degrees, blazing hot outside, and I'm still out there trying to get it in, like heat of the day. And I think it's just relentless work is what people see, but on the outside looking in, it just looks like, oh, that's just like really great talent, but it's relentless work for sure. And like, I can't, like, there are, blessings in there too, as far as like, talent goes, but your talent will only get you so far, like you say, we're talking about levels like the Olympics and, things like that. Like everybody's talented at the Olympics. It's about who works harder, who works better at this, and who, is putting the work in to be at the top.
Amen. Amen on that. Well, so we're about to wrap up pretty soon here, Ryan. Thank you for being a part of the show. Where can all my peeps, and that's why I call my audience, my peeps, where can they find you, or anyone you want to shout out?
I like to shout out everybody if I can, but I can't. I'll say this: shout out to everybody at PF, Pine Forest. Love all my family from back there. Love all my family. My blood family. Shout out all of them. Shout out Coach Price, because we talked about him a lot. Shout out all my ECU team. I'd shout out everybody if I could. You know what I mean? I'm big on that. One person gets it, we all gonna eat. So
Definitely.
I love to recognize everybody else too. That's about it. I guess any encouraging words, just keep working hard, everybody. That's my motto on everything. Like, just work hard. You get there if you work hard.
Definitely,
for sure.
And where could my peeps follow you? Like all my your new fans is going to see this.
So, I got Instagram. Instagram is Ry_Davis, RY_Davis 43. And Yeah, that's about it. I don't have Twitter. I don't want to say my Snapchat name because I made it when I was like 13, 14. So like I don't use it. So,
Hey, if you knew my first Snapchat name, you would just shake your head. So I understand you on that.
Yeah, I figured I got a bunch of friends on it now, so I didn't want to change it up. So I was like, it's just gonna have to stay that. But like, I hope they make a feature where I can change it because yeah, it's pretty bad. But yeah, no. So Instagram is really where I'm at. I would say Facebook, but looking Ryan Davis up on Facebook, it's gonna be hard. So it's like, you just got to find a picture of me. It's a pretty common name. So, but yeah, that's where I'm at. It's Facebook and Instagram, like old people.
All right. Thanks again for being a part of the show, man. Good luck for the remainder of the season and
I
beyond.
appreciate that.
Can't wait to see you win more champions and set more records, brother.
Sure, I appreciate you for having me. Anytime. Just hit me up if we ever, you ever want to talk it out again. I'm down to talk with the peeps anytime.
Oh, most definitely. You're definitely one I'm gonna hit up again, especially when you win that championship, and then win that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
You take care, brother.
All right. Same to you.
Later.
All right, bye.